innovation. Vamos a construir justamente lo que viene siendo la tecnología en el fútbol internacional. The focus will be on how advanced technology is revolutionizing team building and performance enhancement in America's football, showcasing successful innovations and future prospects. Así que para esta ponencia vamos a darle la bienvenida a Mathieu, I hope I say it right, Mathieu Lille-Palette de StatsPerform, Ryan Cardwell de RealMetric Analytics, Pedro Cedillo, ese me sale bastante bien, de Grupo Pachuca, y Alfonso Becerra, de la Federación Mexicana de Fútbol. Repito, si necesitan audífonos para el español, inglés, español, están aquí afuera y los pueden conseguir rápidamente antes de que comience esta ponencia. Así que esperemos lo disfruten en esta segunda parte de lo que está haciendo el World Football Summit. Adelante.
So, let's get started. Bienvenidos, welcome. Glad to share this panel, this conversation with you. We're going to cover a topic that's probably on everyone's corporate bingo cards, right? Innovation. And it could mean a lot of things. So what we will try to do here is to unpack what innovation means and move from how do you promote and develop an innovation culture within the organization. So it's not only the technology by itself, but from the teams to strategy and how do you deploy it, and practical cases, because we have a panel with a lot of experience. So let's get started. And if you don't mind, I'll start with the person who comes from the closest place. So Pedro, I know that you have experienced firsthand what goes into a digital transformation into innovation development in a culture, either at a club at Everton and at a more global scale with Grupo Pachuca. So just wondering what it takes to develop the innovation culture within an organization, and where do you start? How do you know if you're ready for a transition into a new world?
Well, thank you so much, Alfonso. Thank you, Valeria, for the introduction. And hello to the panel over here. Well, I'll start introducing myself. I'm Pedro Cedillo Martínez from Grupo Pachuca, International Vice President. I'm former president of Everton de Viña del Mar in the first division of the Chilean Premier League. What are we talking now is how do you transform into technology, right? I think in my case, Grupo Pachuca, which I'll let you know what is we have 4 clubs. It's a family business. We started out with Club Pachuca in 1995. I was 2 years old when this started out, with my dad and my uncle, Jesus Martínez, who is the president and the majority shareholder of the group. And we built a university after we bought Club Pachuca in 1995. Then we bought Club León in the 2nd division of Mexico. After that, we got promoted to the 1st division. We had 3 championships since then. And after that, we arrived to Chile. In 2016, there I was assigned as president in Everton de Viña del Mar, where we have to build up everything from scratch. And 2 years ago, we arrived to Real Oviedo in Spain in the 2nd division. This weekend, we will be playing the playoffs, hopefully to manage to get the promotion to La Liga. Under my focus, it's really specific. How do you start building technology into the business? It's family business, so whatever family says, it has to be implemented, and that's the vision that my family has had. You know, always trying to be at the top of the spear in technologies, and always trying to integrate new processes. But it's obviously important for the rest of the structure to integrate these platforms and these technologies.
So in a kind of similar but at the same time a scenario that you've worked with several clubs, and I guess each one has different capabilities and different kind of tweaks. Ryan has worked with a lot of clubs internationally. So from this different perspective, from a partner perspective that comes into a club and try to help develop these innovation capabilities, which capabilities or which characteristics do you think are the most important to develop an innovation culture within an organization? How do you know if an organization is ready to take the jump?
Thank you, Alfonso, and just firstly, it's great to be here and to speak in front of you and with a great panel. I think every club is different. That's the first thing. I think everybody that I have come into contact and others will have is understanding the needs and the requirements of the role and the purpose that you're there. And that really then probably sets the tone of then identifying the characteristics. But it could be anything from being forced upon, it could be something that a leadership or new ownership is driving. And it's as a partner, it's our job to identify those and work with them in the best possible way. From there, my personal thing of what makes a really good environment and good characteristics to have is a really strong culture from working across the organization. So promoting a real almost beta mindset, so open to taking risk and trying new things and be able to really have constructive conversations as to whether they are going to be successful, and that ability to go forth and develop. It's a culture sort of, for me, centered around it's like a RIDE concept, which is research, identify, develop, and execute, and that's a continuous cycle, never to be rested upon. And if that culture can then work around the different individuals, the different cognitive mindsets of the people in the room, I think then you're onto something where innovation can flourish.
Good. So let's say an organization already has like this clear vision of you'll have to research, identify, and execute. They're ready to take the jump. And let me jump with you, Mathieu, and because I really like how you frame it during our prep call. You said teams, they do not have a data problem. They do not have a tech problem. They have football problems, and they need to solve it. So let's say that this organization is ready to take the jump. What do you think is the best way to structure an organization in order to face these kind of challenges?
Yeah, first of all, I'm really glad to be here. Thanks for having me. Great to be with these guys on the panel. So it's not going to sound very innovation-like, but I actually think the difference is the people. It's something we touched on earlier in the speaker's room when we had a chat. Innovation, data, AI, whatever you call it, it's always going to be a tool. You need to make that tool for a company like ourselves very sharp and usable. But at the end of the day, you're going to need people to use it. And I think the key for clubs, and I don't know if you agree, is the intel you create from those tools needs to stay within the clubs. So to answer your question, I think the right way to work is actually to have a performance/tech/ whatever you want to call it function that depends on the club, not on the staff or on the sporting director, because these guys, they're going to stay, they're going to go, and if you link those ability to use tech to answer your football problems to their contacts, their provider, the companies they like to work with, then the day they go, that intelligence is gone with them. So I think it's structuring the club in a way where anything that you produce from a tech perspective stays within the clubs and create that culture that you both mentioned. To me, that's how the clubs that work well today have actually worked in the recent years. Is understanding performance is a serious thing, and that can help with our wider problems.
So if I get it right, it's kind of doing a knowledge. The knowledge has to be corporate. It doesn't have to be at the personal level, but move it back to the corporation.
It's got to be incorporated in the culture.
So it makes sense. So if you ever been like just about to jump on a bungee, you know that how your heartbeat goes from 0 to 100 in a second. So Ryan, let's say an organization, it's about to take this leap of faith, and sometimes this leap of faith kind of looks like I have to do it because everyone else is doing it, and it's seen as a big jump with high risk. What do you think is the right path to start promoting this innovation? Is it a top-down kind of initiative? Is it more like a small step? How do you build trust and control over these initiatives?
Well, firstly, I'm terrified of heights, so that's a bad analogy for me.
He did right now.
It's again, you look at the different situations, so it can be very much a top-down approach, but the problem is a lot of data and a lot of football operations data is done at a lower level, and that's the daily user. So to get that real top-down approach, it's got to be something that's for me, it's got to be really hardwired into the organisation, which I think is a bit of a challenge. So for me, to build trust is actually becoming is a paramount, and that for me comes from having clear vision, clear goals of what you want to achieve and why you're going through this process of change. Communication is king. So communicating to the different departments why we're looking to do this, what can it do to elevate your work or make your work more efficient, looking at time saving. There's all manner of things, and you have to be really clear about why you feel that this project is going to help the wider organisation, and that really transparent communication and tailored has to be the right way for me.
So this probably doesn't come as a surprise for everyone. Like, there's no silver bullet, right? Starts with the why and having a clear vision, and how do you align the corporation into this perspective. So I'll jump into, I think it's a great segue for Pedro, just trying to get to know more about Grupo Pachuca case. Do you think for Grupo Pachuca, is it more like a facilitator or more like an enforcer, specifically when you work with all these clubs in different countries with different cultures?
Well, in Grupo Pachuca, we have more than 14 platforms in between our staff. You know, there's platform for operation side, there's platform for scouting and performance, there's platform for nutritional side. You know, we have developed a lot of in-house platforms. So the kid, we focus on the development of young talents. So for us, that's key. For the kids to have everything, it needs to be a 360 overview. So we evolve the platforms around the necessity that we need as a club, you know. So for our young kids, we have a residence for more than 400 kids in Pachuca, and the nutritional guy fills up a form, sends it to this platform, and the kid only arrives at the dinner hall, puts the finger in a machine, and it appears a menu. What does the kid has to eat? Because he's overweight, or because he's underweight, or he's okay. So even in the little details, we need to use platforms. But if we don't know how to use them, it will be useless. I mean, 14 platforms. Sorry for my English. 14 platforms throughout the group. It's a lot. So you have to manage them, and you have to know where are you focusing those platforms inside to take the most advantage of it.
So you have to have a very clear vision of the right questions that you're asking.
Exactly. You need to know what's the necessity you are aiming to develop that platform, either in-house, that we usually do, or as well outside to look for the best platform that accommodates to our necessity.
So if you kind of map that into your day-to-day responsibilities as international vice president, how do you align among the clubs?
Well, that depends a lot, obviously, starting from the top, which is the management. As I said previously, it's a family-run business, so it's kind of different for other enterprises. But it's top-bottom for us, and obviously, you have to make them believe the next stage, that it will help their work throughout this process. If people doesn't believe in what you are doing, they will say, okay, this is not enough for me, or why should I learn something new that it won't help my work? So it's a cultural belief in Grupo Pachuca that we have, that we know that if we take something in, it is because it is going to get simpler work, or better statistics, or better interconnection between the clubs. So it's kind of a cultural belief into these platforms, that whenever you get them into work, they do believe it is going to work into it.
So it sounds like a purpose-driven innovation. having a very clear, for all the organization, what's the purpose of all the group and the different clubs. And when you talk about innovation, it's very important to have other references, like what's happening in other industries, other kind of players, so you don't keep like on drinking your same Kool-Aid all the time. So Matthew, let's pull the curtain a little bit on what happens within Opta. Like, what's the innovation process within, because there's a lot of bets on what you can develop.
Yeah.
How do you pick which one, and how do you do it?
The first thing is probably industry research, as you said. Like, we try to look at, from a data perspective, what other people do outside of the industry to have a large benchmark of what's possible, the new tech, and how the adoption also from other fields is towards data and data product. The second step, which is very important to us, is the customer research. We're very fortunate. We've got customers, on all continents, at all levels. We can talk to clients in Brazil, in Australia, in Japan, in France, in Nigeria. Again, the pool of people we can tap into to try and understand what it is that they want and what it is that they would like to use is massive. And that's a lot of intel for us to get back to the engineering room where we've got to sit and then build the innovation, because I think this is where we might be slightly different. If I'm fully honest, I don't think clubs should innovate. If we are the so-called leader of the data industry in sports, I think innovating is our responsibility. And we are the ones that need to take the learnings from the clubs, what they would like to do, and then turn it into innovation, because that's going to sound very corny, but it is a famous quote from Henry Ford that says, if I asked people what they wanted, they would have replied faster horses.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a bit similar in football. You know what you want based on what you have. The innovation process for us is trying to build what they don't know they need. Mm-hmm. And that's where we spend a lot of time on in R&D. Again, we do that collaboratively. We talk to our club's client. We talk to our partners, because we do have partners from a tech perspective that as much as important as the clubs are to us. And then it's finding that balance between the market need and our responsibility as a market leader to bring new things onto the market.
That's a very interesting perspective. So kind of like an innovation as a service, like you're an innovation engine that works outside and kind of help the organizations.
Yeah, because, club's responsibility, if I dumb it down, is to win games, right? The innovation part in that is a small piece. And I think it's our responsibility, and I think you'll agree, Brian, to help them with that part. Because there's a lot of other components that come into that mix. So if we do that right, we take that, we take that responsibility away from them, and we just help them with it.
I think you just send the right cross into Ryan.
Yeah, we didn't hear us.
So how do you think, like, what's the right way from your perspective to make sure that collaboration between a sports organization, a club, and a partner works well? As Matthew mentioned, if you're this innovation engine that comes from the outside, how do you make sure that the organization receives it the right way?
Well, firstly, it's you've hit the nail on the head. You have to be a partner. So you can't be a supplier. You can't be a provider in that respect. It's a case of understanding the requirements to be able to really showcase our skill set as a platform and be that really good partner. As Matthew alluded to, we've got to drive some of those innovations. So from my time, I've been fortunate to spend time in many environments, and it's the ones that are doing it best are the ones that are making it work for them and them only. So going back to Matthew's point about being club focused, it absolutely is that case. And there's so many major use cases that we could use, but I'll bring one, which was a Belgian club, second tier, and just literally started from scratch. So it was, okay, how are we going to utilize this? What do we need to do? And Pedro, goes back to you, young players to produce and to get better on performance, but also then to resell. So that process was that process really came from them saying, this is our business plan, this is what we're looking to do, and then us collaboratively putting it all together to help them. Now they've gone through some manager changes, so we've tweaked and changed them as we go. And that's whether that be us or any other business in the room, that for me, if you're dealing with football clubs and football environments, that is the sole best way to go.
So from what you three are saying, it kind of jumps to me that the relevance of having translator within the organizations, having these people that can talk either to performance, to staff, to partners, to startups, like all around, and try to understand the needs from the group, from the different clubs, and the different players participating in this. So Matthew, I think within our prep call, you mentioned the case of Parma, and how a great example it is, how they built this link between data and football problems. Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, definitely can. I think first, there's lots of clubs that work well, but I think Parma stands out recently because it translated into the pitch. For those of you that are not familiar with Italian football, they just got promoted after a few years in the in Serie B, in the second tier of Italian football. I think the one thing they did well first is to choose the right people. So when the Kroos family acquired the club, they actually bought into that vision of having a performance silo within the organization. Again, independent from the manager, the sporting director at the time. It was really a club function, and they went and get a great guy. Also happens to be a Frenchman, called Mathieu as well. But don't look at any similarities there. That stops there. But and they brought in that chief performance officer. Again, even in the title, you put it at a level at the board where you actually empower him to have a voice, to work with the people that actually make decisions at the club. And that doesn't happen that often with someone that's got that remit, which is a bit techy, gets that level of seniority in a club. So first is choosing the right people, and then is almost forcing the change by having a horizontal approach as opposed to vertical. The problem is when you create that department, you think of the department as, like in any company, finance, HR, sales, it's very siloed, right? And the approach they've got with the performance is got to touch every age category and every other department in the club. So I think that was done very well. And I think where I give a lot of credit to Parma is they've been patient. And patience in football, I think, is one of the most underrated virtues that you can have. Because, and you love Pedro because you run clubs. You don't have time in football. Every 3 days there's a game, and on the results there's depends whatever is going to happen in the next few days. So the pressure is immense, and the time to take decision is and the window you've got to take decision is very small. And trusting a process that is a bit longer and investing in performance, in tech to help you do that we don't see that very often, and I think they've been great at doing that. They didn't beat it after the first season. They didn't get promoted after the first season. They just continue to implement the vision, and that pays off today.
How relevant patience and resilience is to football, right?
Yeah.
And we're, I think, talking about translators within the company. I think we're lucky enough to have in the panel a translator that has worked with several clubs, and actually, like your group, it's recognized that you have built a reputation for identifying and developing young talents. You just mentioned previously how you work with young talents. Just wondering how are data and analytics used on this mission that you have, or this vision that you have for the group in order to develop talents, optimize performance, and actually to gain some competitive advantage?
Obviously, we are, as a family business, we cannot compete with these big enterprises that owns football clubs around the world. So we need to be in the small details of the sports business to have that big leap closer, So in our vision to develop young players, we need to be in all the little steps. So we formed a university of football so we can educate these guys that we know that will later on sell them out to another countries. So we give them as well some English classes, we give them education. Obviously, because we have a moral compromise with the 99% of the young talents that won't get to football. So we give them education throughout their whole life. Since kindergarten till PhD, we have all the academic cycle in Grupo Pachuca, especially in Club Pachuca. But all this process to making and developing young stars, we need technology, you know, but we need to focus this technology in the areas where we think that us as human beings have an ending, you know, and how can I get better footballers, better fitness, how can I have better muscle for the guys, how can I have better scoutings. So in all that, we have technology in Grupo Pachuca, and obviously we need to adapt as well to the different places and circumstances. It's not the same technology that we can use in Chile or how we apply it. You can use the same platform, but maybe you don't have the same circumstances to apply in Oviedo, you know? So you have to adapt as well. It's another country, it's another league, it's another evolution as a country, and it's another cultural adapt. So you need to know where are you aiming, what are your needs, and convince the people that execute the programs that if they don't execute it correctly, the whole chain is going to be messed. So it's a whole integral process in our way of seeing the development of the player, and that's where technology and platforms come over to take those spots that we need to fix and get the best of the sports performance.
Actually, you recently won with Pachuca, the CONCACAF Champions League, with a very young team. And let me take this as a cue to make sure if we have an empty room here or not, probably we can congratulate Grupo Pachuca for winning the CONCACAF Champions League here, right?
Yeah, well done.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Okay,
Thank
I
you,
just wanted to check if there was someone at the room. But could you kind of walk us on how, like, this team that has won this tournament recently, like, what's the participation of technology, data technology in their process, either during this run for the championship or for their preparation as professional players?
Well, I'll take you back 2 years ago, and here's one thing that Matthew and Ryan has also said, that is patience, you know, patience and trust in the process. 2 years ago, we were champions of the Liga MX, and out of the 18 players that were champions back then, we sold 15. We sold 15 players abroad, overseas, or locally in the Mexican market, and we had to start a new build, a building from scratch again. Out of 18, we sold 15, so you've got no team. So we had this cycle where there's patience and there's trust on our youth development players. So obviously, it took a period of time that we were trying to compete, but we needed time for the young players to compete. And it was about a year, maybe 6 months, that we really struggled to compete. Last semester, we didn't manage to get into the playoff of the Mexican League. But now we can see that process of trusting the young players and getting them into the pitch has its regards, you know? Now, we this semester, in almost all of the matches, we compete with 8 young talented players from the Academy of Pachuca. So it can be done, but you need patience. And obviously, the period that was not good enough to compete, the fans are angry. Obviously, we understand that. But you need to send them a message that they have to trust on the process. And we won't see maybe in that period of time a title, but we'll see it later. And now it came, you know, with the CONCA Champions. We were out in Liga MX in quarterfinals, but we are proud to say that mainly 8 out of the 11 starting players are from our own academy.
Congratulations, a great case. So we've talked about vision and having a clear why and how to execute and having patience, but then it comes a time when you have to just, you know, deliver results. So Ryan, just wondering from your perspective, what are the most impactful applications that we have nowadays that they're like at hand reach for clubs and sports organizations to deploy. I guess it just connecting with what just Pedro said, it's how do we build winning teams using these capabilities?
Well, firstly, I think Pedro's alluded to a really successful case of how to plan the succession. So selling 15 players and having the understanding that the younger players are on the right trajectory is utilizing those 10, 12, 14 platforms, whatever you had at that moment in time, to their maximum. And that, for me, is a really, really good example of how to plan those exits really well. And that can go with player development, that can go, and we're seeing it now in the wider world with coaches and executives going for big amounts of compensation because of their services and what they can offer. So the planning of an exit is actually something that's really vital. So what platforms? There are so many, and there are a magnitude of different providers, platforms, partners, whatever you wish to call them, and in so many different areas, and it's really, really hard. Ultimately, it comes down to what works for you, what do you feel comfortable with, what can your staff get on board with, or do you need to make a staff change in order to do so? And those things really boil down to the key things that we've discussed, which is that key goal, key emphasis on what you're trying to do, whether that is up performance on the pitch or whether it's to get a little bit more interaction with your fans. And in a commercial world now, we're in such a globalized industry. It's so amazing to see fans popping up all over the world. And those processes for me are something to touch upon, because I think first and foremost now, there's so much data. We've almost gone from nothing or to measuring number of goals, number of corners, to now 350, 450 metrics per game in 900 leagues around the world, or however many. And it's ultimately, it comes down to how can we decipher that, translate it, and make it usable? Because otherwise, we just get caught in this this hole of numbers. And actually, that for me is probably where, rather than a specific platform to go after, it's making sure that you're really tailored in your approach to say, this is what we want to do, this is how we're going to do it, and these are the areas that we're going to target. So, and for me, the biggest thing now is planning those exits. So, you look at how things are evolving in the manager space, understanding, having that talent wall ready to go, and how do we look to do that? Same with players and executives. So, again, I think it's, for me at the moment, it's maximizing it, because the way that the world is working, AI is coming up on our inside quicker and quicker every day, and it's. But I think actually just understanding of how to use that and how to use that efficiently, properly, and in the right manner is what we need to target and focus on.
So taking, I think there's a great insight there. It's whatever works for you based on your alignment for your vision. So let me take that, and Matthew, you can help us with this. Probably more, instead of like the most common use cases, what are the most common big questions that a sports organization have usually? What are the big questions that they come to you for some help with this kind of model for innovation, like external engine to help with?
I think it's very diverse, right? Because again, we got clubs of all sizes with all sort of ambition and projects. But I think the one thing they've got in common, I think, is how do we demonstrate that investment in tech, because it is an investment, and in football usually the investment is mostly around players to buy and to pay them, and that's where the money goes usually. So how do I justify that whatever I'm going to invest in your tech, or is Ryan's tech, or anyone's tech really, is going to help me win games? So, and that's where I want to go back to the role of the translator. And I'm mindful it's a bit counterintuitive on a panel talking about innovation, that we've talked so much about people, but this is key. Because the demonstration of the quality of your tech or the quality of your data is not going to come through you sitting with the decision maker and explaining, or how the XG model was built, or how the platform is pulling different sources of data and creating an index. Is going to be, why should I invest on that player as opposed to this one? So essentially, how am I going to limit my risk in player investment? And that's the question you need to help answer from the people that have used your product. So to me, it's always, linking the technology to the actual football problems we talked about, and that's always a concern of people that we talk to. And what's fun is even when you get the most tech-savvy CEOs, managers, sporting director that are interested in actually looking into the engine, that at the end of the day, at the end of the meeting, it's always okay. It's great. I understand better the tech side of the things, but how is it going to help me in my daily job, which is to win football matches? That's the key for them, I think.
So, Pedro, I saw you nodding, agreeing with Matthew, and just wondering if it comes to mind in a specific case, something that you can share with us on how technology, data, innovation has helped taking these decisions from a financial perspective, from a more, you mentioned that you're a family organization and you have some guidelines, but does it come to mind a specific case where technology and data has enabled you to take the right choice?
Yes, I have this case. We were trying to get the perfect platform for all Grupo Pachuca. We are in a new area, that in the international side, it's recently new for Grupo Pachuca. Grupo Pachuca has 30 years in the business, and the international area is just 1 year old. So I was trying to get the right platform for the whole group. And at the end, I got to the conclusion, like you all have been saying all the time, it has to be the best one that fits to the best for Pachuca, the best for León, the best for Real Oviedo, and the best for Everton de Viña del Mar. I cannot try to fit the guys from Spain in Oviedo to do the same work as they do in Everton de Viña del Mar. Maybe because in Oviedo, in Spain, La Liga is a top category league, so they have already some instruments that the club is already using since long time ago, and I cannot get them to fit to a new program only because Grupo Pachuca is saying, so you have to execute the correct platform with the right profile people and on the right places. So obviously, like in Pachuca, I said we develop a lot and we invest a lot in young players. So technology for us is key. So I can know at what time is the player going to school, what classes is he having, what meal is he having, in what pitch is he playing, so I can go to see him and see his training, and then what is he doing afterwards. On the residence, he has to get the key in, out, so I know if he's in his room or if he's out. Even his parents can know if he's in the rooms, or he can know the schedule for the day. He knows that at 8 a.m. he's having English classes, and then he's having the maths, and then he's training, or he's going into the medical facilities because he got an injury. So technology is key for us, but it's different to apply it in Pachuca or in León that has another circumstances and another type of fans and another project in Oviedo or in Everton de Viña del Mar.
I think this is a great example, and we're kind of circling the topic here, how relevant it is, the role of a translator, because it's not the same solution for everyone. It's whatever it fits your specific case, having a clear vision, being patient and resilient. I think we're kind of coming or doing a full circle here. So as a way to close this panel, just wondering, and if you can all three answer briefly, from your perspective, what are the most exciting technologies or innovations that during the next few years will change the sports scenario? I'm trying to read your minds, and I'll guess that there's like a common question in here, but if you can pick an unpopular opinion, that'd be amazing. You want to start, Ryan?
Oh, thank you. Wow, that is a good question. For me, going back to football operation and performance, potentially a little bit more advanced of the psychological side of things. So can we create a team synergy? Can we find characters that match? I know I'm sure many people in the room have done surveys before going into jobs, Thomas International and all the the personality sort of questionnaires. But at the moment, that's not really something in the process. So maybe I think something around that I think is potentially coming to fruition. And I think when you look at it, it's probably something more player-centric as well. So the players are growing up in a digital era, very, very comfortable with using stats, video, and any other devices. So I think we as you in the room as next generation leaders of businesses and organizations, I think it's our duty to help those young players to get the best out of themselves.
So to quote a movie, you got me at hello. So psychology, kind of analytics, and mental health as a transformation for that's amazing. Thank you, Ryan.
I couldn't agree more. It really is where I think there's the most unknown. When you look at players' data, event data tracking, we already have a lot, so you'll be exploiting what we already got. I think what we don't know is how they make decision, how they feel in a certain circumstances. So I think cognitive analysis and psychology are the two fields where there isn't much that has been done, from a tech perspective. And I agree with you. I think this is where probably you've got the most potential. That's what I'm personally excited to see in the near future. And we don't have a skin in that game, so so very curious to see how what we learn in the medical field is going to help us in sports as well. But to me, this is definitely what will be interesting in the next few years. So I definitely agree.
You picked just a small topic, right? Decision making, either for players or organization. It's the field and the desk.
Yeah.
Right? Great. Thank you, Mathieu. Pedro.
Well, I think they read my mind because I was going to say that obviously technology is going to move forward, with this AI. So they will give you more information. But for me, the key is how you use that information. And that is preparation for the people, You need to prepare your people, your executives, your decision makers, your players to use and digest all that information that you have now on hand. Because you can have all the qualitative side of the teams, of the players, the quantitative side, but if the human being doesn't know how to use the platform, doesn't know how to process that information, it won't work. You can have the best platform in the world and it won't work. So for me, the preparation to this new transformation is key to keep evolving as human beings, to know how to use all these instruments.
So not only knowing your players and your staff, but making sure to get them ready.
Exactly.
Great topic. Thank you very much. So just as a quick round, if anyone would like to know more about what you're working on and get in contact with you, if you can share like your preferred social media or channel of contact, right?
LinkedIn or just Google RealMetric, and my details will be on there.
Perfect. Mathieu?
Yeah, it's WhatsApp, but I'm not going to give my numbers out. So, but LinkedIn is a good first step, and then if that works, we'll get on to WhatsApp.
Sounds good. Pedro?
Well, all the information of Grupo Pachuca, it's on the web. All the teams have website. All the teams have social media, and personally, if there's any interest, LinkedIn as well. It could be the best way.
Great.
No numbers.
No numbers. Didn't get it. So it's been a pleasure. I've learned a lot from this panel, and I hope the audience learned too. So thank you very much for sharing with us.
Thanks to you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.